What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel where we speak the truth, we're honest, we give out takes on professional wrestling. It is Sunday night, Monday morning, whatever you want to call it. And we're here to review AEW Revolution 2025. I just got done watching AEW Revolution, and man, it was an awesome show. So many good stories. The matches were great. There really wasn't a bad match during the show. I mean, the Brody King Okada match was like 10 minutes. It was fine. The Mercedes Moné match with Momo Watanabe ended up being pretty solid. The Outrunners and Hurt Syndicate, it was what it should have been. A quick match, 8 minutes. And there's so many other good stuff, man. I mean, that Swerve and Ricochet match was awesome. The Kenny and Takeshita match was pretty good. I've seen better from them before. The opener was great, which we'll talk about soon. That fucking cage match, man. Oh my god. An all-timer of a steel cage match. That might be my favorite cage match I've ever seen. The stuff that they were doing, Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, the stuff that they were doing was out of this world insane. And I would not be shocked if I would be shocked if Ospreay or Kyle Fletcher come out of this match and they're not injured. I would be stunned. So everything was awesome. And then we got to the main event. And even after the main event, I still thought it was an awesome show. And I'm going to tell you guys something that a lot of you aren't going to like. Cope should have never won the world title tonight. Christian Cage shouldn't be the AEW world champion. The booking of this match was not bad. And they got it right. Jon Moxley should have walked out of this show tonight as the AEW world champion. And I'm going to stand by that. But we might have to pivot. We might have to pivot to Swerve. And we'll talk about that when we get to the main event. So I liked the booking of the main event. But having those guys follow up what is right now your match of the year in 2025. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Incredible, fantastic, unsanctioned match. 5 stars. Well deserved. They were the match of the year for about a week. Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher went out there. All-timer of a steel cage match. Put on the match of the year. And then we got the main event. After a match like that, of course that main event was going to be a letdown. It was not even it's not even fair to compare the two. So, of course, after a match like that, the main event was set up to fail. That match did not feel like a main event. The main event on this show should have been Mariah May and Toni Storm. It was quick. They had a 13-minute match. But goddamn, those ladies had you hooked from the beginning of the match all the way till the ending. They had some great callbacks. It was violent. It was so much blood in that match. I've never seen a women's match in my life with so much blood. And I'm telling you what, the women in WWE, if I was watching that match, I would be furious. I'd be going up to Triple H and be like, yo, in these big grudge matches, you gotta let us you gotta let us bleed. You got to. So, at the end of the day, it was an awesome show. I just think the match was bad. It was set up to be bad. And I think the Mariah May Toni Storm match should have been the main event. So, overall, it was an awesome pay-per-view. And it was an awesome weekend. What a weekend it was, man. Friday night SmackDown at the Wells Fargo Center. We are doing great for that vlog. We're at 370 views on the vlog at SmackDown. SmackDown was a very good show. Great experience on Friday night. Then yesterday we had so many good college basketball games. March Madness starts very soon. And March is one of my favorite months of the year because of March Madness. So that's awesome. And then the pay-per-view tonight just capped off an amazing weekend. And we're going to talk about it all. And if you guys haven't already, speaking of that SmackDown vlog, please, please, please go ahead and check that out. It'll be up in the last 20 seconds of this podcast. All you have to do is click on it, and it'll take you right to the vlog. Such a great time at the show. Cody Rhodes cut that fantastic promo on John Cena. LA Knight won the United States Championship in a great main event. And the segment with Bianca, Naomi, and Jade Cargill was really, really good. And I was very impressed by that segment. And realistically, between that segment between Bianca, Naomi, and Jade on Friday, the new movie that just came out with Queen of the Ring, and the Toni Storm Mariah May match, this was a hell of a weekend for women's wrestling too. So, shout out to women's wrestling. They had a great weekend. So, okay, I'm just seeing what Twitter's saying for a little bit. Let's go ahead and get into the show. So the first match we had was MJF and Adam Page. I thought this was a great way to open up the show. MJF came out with Hangman's old music, and then he came out to his music, and the crowd booed him like crazy, and then Hangman came out to his new theme. This was such a great match, and the story of it was great. They told a great story, and the story was MJF and his insecurities got in the way. MJF's insecurities costed him this match, and they displayed it throughout the feud, asking the crowd why they chose him over me. He's very jealous. He's jealous of Hangman Page, and it ended up costing him the match. And just the match overall was fucking great, man. They had a great match, so I guess we'll get into it right here. They're doing some chain wrestling, and then MJF, or Hangman, Irish whips MJF, and Hangman goes to jump for like a Hurricane Rana, but MJF catches him and hits a backbreaker in like a powerbomb position. So that looked brutal. And then moments later, the Hangman hit a moonsault onto the outside of the floor. Haven't seen him hit that move in a while. Then MJF hit a super kick onto Hangman, into an Alabama slam, and then into a inverted DDT onto Hangman's head, which he kicked out at 2. So that was a very nice combination. MJF later on, he's in trouble, and Hangman hits a Deadeye. He hits another Deadeye. He goes for the buckshot, but MJF beautifully counters it into the salt of the earth. And then this right here, they're fighting on the outside, and this was the spot of the match. This was freaking crazy. So they're brawling on the outside, and Hangman throws MJF into the ring post. And Hangman goes for the moonsault on the top of the barricade. MJF catches him, but Hangman has MJF in a tombstone position. Then MJF has Hangman up in a tombstone position, and I have never seen somebody hit a jumping tombstone pile driver onto a steel chair in my life. And that's what we saw in this match. This was easily the spot of the match. A jumping tombstone pile driver on top of the steel chair. That was sick. That was a great spot. And they went back into the ring. And MJF went for the Heat Seeker. But as he jumped in the air, Hangman caught him, went into the ring, hit the Deadeye. And before he hit all that, he's screaming at the crowd, "You picked him over to me. I'm going to show you why I was right the whole time. I did nothing wrong." He's shouting at these fans. Then he gets caught into the Heat Seeker, and then he gets hit by the Deadeye by Hangman Page. And then Hangman hits the Angel's Wings, Christopher Daniels move. And this was fucking brutal. MJF went face first into the ring canvas. Fucking face first. Ow. And then buckshot lariat. 1, 2, 3. Hangman wins. So I had a theory that MJF was going to win this match to continue the feud. However, Hangman won this match clean, and I still think this feud's going to continue because now MJF is going to be obsessed. He's going to be jealous about Hangman Page and how much the crowd loves him, and he's going to want another match with him. And that's the story that these guys are trying to tell, is MJF's obsession over Adam Page. And at the end of the day, Hangman going over makes sense. I found out after this match was over, I found out 2 statistics on Twitter. MJF, since he lost to Wardlow at Double or Nothing 2022, he's only lost 3 singles matches to Samoa Joe when he lost the world title, Will Ospreay when he lost the international title, and tonight to MJF, to Hangman Page. So AEW has really protected MJF throughout these years in AEW. And also, Hangman Page, yes, he won the steel cage match against Swerve, but technically that didn't count in the record books for AEW since it was lights out. So Excalibur said that this is Hangman's first one-on-one victory on pay-per-view since Double or Nothing, since Revolution 2023. I found that to be wild. That was crazy. So, great match, and I would figure that MJF's going to attack him on Wednesday or the following episode, and we'll get another match between these two guys because MJF is now obsessed with Hangman Page. So I thought that was a great match, and they told a great story that's going to continue the feud. Even with the babyface going over, it makes sense. Then we had Momo Watanabe versus Mercedes Moné for the TBS Championship. And in the beginning, they were very slow. And the match, I felt like this match went longer than it should have. The MJF match went 19 minutes. This match went 18 minutes. I felt like they could have chunked out like maybe 3-4 minutes of this match. Save time on the pay-per-view. This is how Mercedes matches go now. Is she's very slow in the beginning, and it's slow and it's orchestrated. And then the first 10 minutes go by, and the end of the match, however time the match is going to be, it starts to pick up. And that's how it was with this match. So, it was very slow in the beginning. But in the end, it ended up being pretty solid. And honestly, this might have been Mercedes' best moneymaker she's ever hit. It did not look bad at all tonight. It looked pretty good, actually. And then to the boss statement, whatever the submission hold, the bank statement is what she called it in WWE. I don't know what she calls it now because she barely uses it in AEW, but she used it tonight. And Momo tapped out, and Mercedes retained the TBS Championship. And throughout the match, they showed Billy Starks looking and scouting Mercedes. So maybe they're building up Billy to take on Mercedes, and that's how they get Athena to AEW TV. Should be interesting. I think Athena is way too good for... she's way too good for Ring of Honor. And maybe she's somebody who could beat Mercedes potentially at an All-In. So we'll see what happens. I thought it was solid at the end. Show some love for Ricochet. Absolutely love that intro. He has the embassy symbols on his Titantron. He came out to the Prince Nana jacket. And I texted my buddy during the show. I got a feeling this feud's going to be over after this match happens. Part of me thought it was going to continue even after whoever won got the world title match. But then it started processing I think the feud's going to be over after this match. So Ricochet comes out to the embassy jacket. Swerve comes out. He's got a band playing for him. I'm not going to lie, the drums kind of ruined the entrance for me. But this guy got a ton of pyro. You could just tell how much his company loves Swerve, how much stock they have in Swerve. He is the ace of AEW. And since he's gotten to AEW, he's been one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. And this match with Ricochet, remember when I told you guys, a couple weeks ago, when Ricochet beat Swerve? Man, they had a great match tonight. But the match they're going to have on pay-per-view is going to be so much better than what they had on that show. God damn it, I was right. This match was freaking amazing. Amazing. And it told a story about the number one contendership and the robe. So it was freaking amazing. So let's just get it started. We got some chain wrestling going on between Swerve and Ricochet. Spirit gun early, Swerve ducks. Last call early, Ricochet ducks. Ricochet goes for the Scorpion Deathlock. Swerve gets out of it. Irish whip to the rope by Ricochet and a shoulder tackle by Swerve. That's very quick. Both guys do moonsaults, and then Ricochet gets caught by Swerve into a torture act, and Ricochet sold the shit out of that. I think that's what it's called. A torture act? I think that's what it's called. I'm not sure. It's when you have the guys on your shoulders and you kind of just drop down on your knees. I think that's what it's called. So now they're fighting on the outside, and Swerve is just punching Ricochet. He's punching him in the face. And the referee starts counting and Swerve's not paying attention. And Nana goes to tap Swerve on the shoulder just to get his attention, get back in the ring. And Swerve pushes Nana. So Nana's furious about this. And he looks at Swerve in disgust. Ricochet walks on the barricade, hits his version of the last call, and Nana walks away. He walks away. He flips off Swerve, and this crowd's booing Nana out of the building. How could you? The man got pushed. He didn't take that. He didn't take that well. So, there was a ton of actress in the crowd. Leslie Jones was in the front row, and she was going insane for Swerve this entire match. She was losing her mind. So, Ricochet Irish whips Swerve, and Ricochet goes for like a cutter. Swerve throws him. Swerve picks up Ricochet for a suplex, and he hits the suplex on the Ricochet, and Ricochet kicks out at 2. Now these guys are on the apron. Swerve is going for a back body drop, but Ricochet ends up hitting a Poison Rana onto the apron floor. And now Ricochet has cleared off the announce table, and he's talking trash to these fans in the front row. And Swerve's got him caught, and he lifts him up, and he hits the freaking cop killer on top of the announce table. And my God, this announce table is so steady. It is so steady. It's like a brick. And I was baffled that this table did not break. Baffled. But it was an awesome spot. Awesome. So now, Nana's back out. And Ricochet, after he hit a 630, he sees the robe. And Nana comes back out. And they're playing tug of war over the robe. And he takes out Nana. I think he took him out with like a suicide dive. And then Swerve hits a suicide dive. And Ricochet catches him, dude. And it felt like he was about to drop him. So he's like, oh shit, I better do this now. And my God, he hit a Death Valley driver on the Swerve. And my God, I swear to God, I'm watching the show with my dad and my uncle. My dad knows all about wrestling. My uncle barely knows any wrestling. So he's sitting there with me and he's watching this match. And he sees this Death Valley driver. And he's like, how the fuck did he not break his neck? I'm like, I don't know, dude. I thought he could have broken his neck as well. My God, that was insane. And it felt like Ricochet didn't catch him long enough. And he hit the Death Valley driver while wearing the robe too. And they're back in the ring. Ricochet, he goes for the spirit gun. And he gets hit by the last call. He gets hit by another last call. He gets hit by the Swerve stomp. And then the big pressure. 1, 2, 3. Swerve Strickland wins. Swerve beats Ricochet. He's the number 1 contender to the world title. And he grabs the embassy robe. and he gets on one knee and he hands it back to Nana, and Nana's in tears, dude. He's in tears. He hugs Swerve, embraces him. This was awesome. This match was amazing. Go out of your way and watch this. And Swerve is the ace of AEW. And I said it a couple weeks ago. I can't remember which review it was, but I said on that review that it should be an AEW original who beats Jon Moxley for the AEW championship. But fuck, man. Swerve Strickland resembles everything that AEW's about. And he's the goddamn ace of that company. He's the ace of AEW. And if they somehow pivot, I don't think they're going to. But if they somehow pivot and Swerve wins the title against Jon Moxley, man, I would be all for that. I'm all for that, man. This guy is... They throw out the term generational talent a lot. This guy's a fucking generational talent. I love this guy. I love Swerve. This was amazing. And shout out to Ricochet, too. He was great in this feud with the robe and the glasses and coming out in the Eagles hat. He was a great nerd. I don't know what's next for him, but man, he's a player. And he absolutely killed it in this feud with Swerve Strickland. So now we move on, and we'll talk more about Swerve after the main event. Brody King and Okada for the Continental title. After that match, it was going to be very hard to follow up. You got about a 60% effort from Okada. The match was only 10 minutes. I mean, it was fine, but this crowd literally couldn't care. This match was made on Wednesday. This match probably should have been on Dynamite, if I'm being honest with you. Okada won with the Rainmaker in a 10-minute match and retained the Continental title, and that's it. They had it was fine. They had a fine match. And then Hurt Syndicate against the Outrunners. And early on, the Outrunners were getting some offense in on the Hurt Syndicate. And then the Hurt Syndicate destroyed them. And then the Outrunners got some more offense. I think it was Truth Magnum. And then MVP's like, you better finish these guys. So you get a jumping knee. You get a body slam onto Turbo Floyd. The press slam by Bobby Lashley. A jumping knee from Shelton. A spear from Bobby Lashley. And that takes out Turbo. And that leaves Truth Magnum. And you get a jumping knee from Shelton. And you get a spear from Bobby Lashley. And the match is over. So the match went 8 minutes. Perfect length. Didn't need to go long at all. And the Hurt Syndicate retained the tag team titles. And I still think we're building to a match against the Murder Machines. Which I hope happens at Dynasty, because I would love to see that match in person. So this match was what it needed to be. 8 minutes, quick, get out of there. And I was loving the pacing of this show. It was 9:45 and we had 5 matches done already and 4 to go. And I'm like, oh my God. These next 3 matches, Toni Storm, Mariah May, Omega Takeshita, Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, might be the best stretch of AEW matches on pay-per-view ever. My God. They gave us 2 calm down matches back-to-back to get us ready for these matches. So after the Hurt Syndicate match, I'm like, okay, the show's been fun so far, but now we're going to kick it into a whole nother gear. And we get the Hollywood ending. Toni Storm and Mariah May. And during Toni's entrance, Mariah runs up to the ramp and starts brawling with Toni. Now, granted, it felt like they did so much stuff in that match, but the match was only 13 minutes. This match was only 13 minutes. And it was incredible. An incredible match. Probably the best women's match so far this year. And it'll be a lot of people's match of the night, match of the year, and all the power to you. I'm not going to disagree with that. It's not my match of the night, however. But damn, this was incredible. So they're brawling, and Mariah takes out Luther with a shotgun dropkick, and she slipped, and Luther flew over the table, and that's the last you saw of him in this match. Toni then picked up Mariah and hit a sky high off the stage through 2 tables. Sickening thud with the tables. And they're brawling to the outside. They go from the stage to the ring, and Toni hits a DDT from the barricade to the floor onto Mariah. And they're brawling, and Mariah is getting the better of Toni. And then Toni gets hit by a Storm Zero onto the steel steps. And Toni, it's not this part, but they had a over camera view, like above the ring, of Toni Storm's face. And oh my goodness, you would have felt like you were watching a horror movie. It felt like you were watching a horror movie with these 2 women. So Toni Storm, after the Storm Zero, came up, busted open. She had blood all over her face, in her hair, in her eyes, smeared makeup. It was something, man. So now Mariah has 2 steel chairs in there, and she puts one over Toni Storm, and she hits a hip attack onto Toni Storm with a steel chair over her face. And now at this point you have, they each had bowls with broken champagne glass, and there's tape in there, and they tape up their hands, and they put glass on it, and Toni punches Mariah in the face with glass, and that's how Mariah ends up bleeding. And Toni is just jamming the glass into Mariah's head extremely, as hard as she possibly could. And then Toni runs and she starts stabbing. She runs to stab Mariah one more time, but then Mariah takes the champagne bottle and hits Toni in the you know what. I'm not going to say it on here, but you know what. So, these ladies are bleeding buckets. And Toni Storm. Now they do the overcam view of the broken glass all over the ring. And my God, she had blood on her hands, blood on her legs, blood on her chest, blood all over her face. If you watched this, you would have thought you were watching a horror movie. That shot was incredible. Incredible. And Mariah goes for the Mayday, but then Toni counters it into a Storm Zero. And Toni goes to find the shoe, and Mariah is running up on the stage, and she couldn't escape Toni. So this is a throwback to the angle which Mariah May turned on Toni Storm back in July of last year. She starts whipping her with the title over and over and over and over again. She starts bashing her head with the shoe over and over and over again. And then she hits a Storm Zero onto a table, which didn't break because the ledges were very close to each other. But Toni Storm retained. And at the end, they put the spotlight on Mariah and Toni, who were with Toni unconscious on top of Mariah. They put the spotlight on them, and on the Jumbotron, you saw the end. And they got a standing ovation after the match. 13 minutes, brutal, violent, bloody as hell, false count anywhere match. And it was the Hollywood ending. And this was the end of Mariah May and Toni Storm. And what a way to end a feud that went on for almost a year and a half. This whole thing started when Mariah May got into AEW November of 2023. And this thing has been going on for 16 months. And you have your rivalries that individuals can fight forever with each other and you wouldn't get sick of it. You have Swerve and Hangman. And now Toni and Mariah. You would never get sick of it. And I wonder if this is going to be the end of Timeless Toni Storm. I wonder if she's going back to the old rock star Toni Storm gimmick. Because I don't know who the Timeless the Timeless stuff would fit in a feud with. I don't know. So maybe she's going back to regular, normal Toni Storm. But that was the Hollywood ending. It was absolutely incredible. And it capped off a great weekend for women's wrestling overall with a really good segment on SmackDown with Bianca, Naomi, and Jade. The Queen of the Ring women's movie. And then this match between Toni Storm and Mariah May. So it just gets better. We go to Kenny Omega and Konosuke Takeshita for the International Championship. And I will say, this match was really good. And this was a long match. This match went 28 minutes. 28 minutes. They had a really good match. I've seen better between these guys. And for some reason, I felt like they were holding back a little bit. I don't know why. I could think why by the end of it, but these guys had a really good match. So let's talk about it. Takeshita and Kenny, they're in a chop fest. Kenny goes for a Snapdragon. Takeshita counters, elbow to the back of the head, runs the ropes. Kenny chops him, and then Takeshita runs to the ropes, and he runs through Kenny Omega's chop and hits the Takeshita line away. That's what it's called. That's what Excalibur called it on commentary. That was good. And they have a table set up on the outside. And for most of the match, the table's just sitting there. And Kenny Omega, he knocks the table down. And the crowd boos. And Takeshita ended up hitting a German onto the back of the table to Kenny Omega. And then he sat the table up, not where you would go through it, but where you would go rib first into it. And Takeshita just picked Kenny up in a frontward suplex and let him go. Rib first into the table. Selling the stomach. That looked painful. Back in the ring, they do some stuff. Takeshita goes for a clothesline, but Kenny meets him with a V-trigger. And Kenny, he has a power bomb, and then another V-trigger, and Takeshita kicked out at 2. And Takeshita, he's going for the blue thunder bomb on the top rope, but he pushes Kenny Omega off onto the outside of the floor. Kenny battles. He gets up, and he hits a sit-up. He hits a sit-out power bomb into the ring on the Takeshita. Beautiful stuff. Takeshita, he then countered a tombstone piledriver from Kenny to hit his own into the spinning bastard driver, which I believe Kenny kicked out at 2. Yes, into his finisher, the spinning bastard driver, which Kenny kicked out at 2. And then Takeshita hit a knee, and Kenny kicked out at 2. Takeshita then went to hit another one, and Kenny kicked out at 1. Firing himself up, Don Callis was losing his mind on commentary. No other professional wrestler should be kicking out at 1 other than Kenny Omega. He makes it work every time. Every time. And then Kenny catches the V-trigger. Takeshita catches the V-trigger into an elbow. Another elbow. Kenny hits a V-trigger and then goes for the the one-winged angel, but instead he hits a poison rana. So now they're doing crucifix roll-ups, and Kenny kicks out at 2, or Takeshita kicks out at 2, Kenny kicks out at 2, and then Kenny rolls Takeshita with another crucifix roll-up. 1, 2, 3. Kenny Omega is the new AEW International Champion. Takeshita looks shocked. Don Callis looks shocked. This tells me the same thing that happened with Mariah May and Toni Storm in Australia, where Toni Storm won with a roll up, that they're gonna have another match, and in this case, Kenny Omega won with a crucifix roll up, and Takeshita stood up immediately, and he looked shocked. This roll up finish tells me we're getting a third and final match between these two guys at Dynasty. And my fucking God, I will not complain about that. Seeing that match again for a final time in the trilogy, they're 1-1. Yes, Takeshita pinned Kenny twice. And if you want to count the tag matches, they're 2-2. Because Takeshita pinned Kenny at All In 23. He pinned him in a singles match at All Out 23. Kenny pinned him at Grand Slam, and then Kenny beat him tonight. So if you want to count the tag matches, they're 2-2. If you just count the singles matches, though, they're now 1-1. And Kenny's now the new international champion. Let's culminate this at Dynasty. I'm not fucking complaining, dude. If I get to see that match in person, holy shit. I will lose my mind. And I think there's a reason, too, that they were holding back a little bit in this match. It just felt like they were holding back to me for a little bit. Don't get me wrong, the match was really good, but I've seen better between them. And Kenny Omega, I thought he was going to lose because I just didn't think he needed the title. But he's the international champion. He won with a roll-up. I feel like we're getting another match. A third and final match between these guys. And then Kenny Omega, they announce he's the first ever AEW Grand Slam champion. World champion, international champion, tag champion, trios champion. Kenny Omega, one of a kind. What a goat. And then Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. Oh my goodness. I might have lost my mind watching this match. And you know what, dude? I'm not just going to credit to them for how great of a match they had, how unbelievable this match was. They had to adjust their ring style because they had to adjust their in-ring style to make this match work. And fucking damn it, they made it work. So Fletcher makes his entrance, and he's on top of the cage. And then Ospreay makes his entrance, and he's on top of the cage. And they did a great job with entrances. They're doing a better job making wrestlers feel like a bigger deal. Both these guys, especially Ospreay, when they came out, this felt like a big fucking deal. And they climbed down the cage. And early on, Ospreay went for a springboard off the rope, and his ankle got clipped up by the cage. So that's a story like, he's got to adjust his style in this cage match. So I liked that part. But Ospreay early on went for the Os Cutter, and it got reversed, and Ospreay got launched into that steel cage. And that's how Will Ospreay, that's how he came up busted open. and he was shedding blood. And then Kyle Fletcher saw this, and he raked his face on the steel cage, and he climbed the cage just to lick Will Ospreay's blood. My uncle was in disgust watching this. So now, the turnbuckle's exposed. Fletcher accidentally hits his head onto it, and that's how he gets busted open. And Will Ospreay hits the leap of faith off the top rope, absolutely beautiful, onto Kyle Fletcher. And at what point does Davis come in? I'm trying to think. I can't remember. But these guys are beating the absolute shit out of each other. And Davis comes in and he grabs a bag. He's got a wrench to open up the cage door to put this bag in there. Throws in a steel chair. And Fletcher hits a kick onto Ospreay. And Ospreay goes into the steel cage. And then Fletcher goes for the brain buster. But Ospreay gets out of it and hits him with a phenomenal forearm. Ospreay then goes into the bag that Mark Davis brought into the ring. And he pulls out a barbed wire baseball bat. And this guy has lost it. Baseball bat into the stomach. Baseball bat into the back. And my God, he rakes his face with the baseball bat. And when he does it, he's got the visual that Ospreay is just bleeding buckets. His face, so much blood on it. Later on, Fletcher gets the bat. He swings for the fences but misses. And Ospreay, he hits a hidden blade onto Kyle Fletcher. And then these guys, Ospreay looks like he's climbing up onto the top of the cage. But he hits an os cutter onto Kyle Fletcher. And Fletcher kicked out at 2. Fletcher then takes advantage. He hits a brain buster. And this is a callback to Wednesday on Dynamite where Fletcher hit a brain buster through the chair onto Will Ospreay. He did it again in this match. Brain buster onto the steel chair. And then Fletcher brings out a black bag, which, yes, had thumbtacks in it. And he pours out the thumbtacks and he goes for a power bomb. Ospreay reverses it. They're doing a whole bunch of counters to each other. And Ospreay has Kyle Fletcher in the position for a Styles Clash. Fletcher is doing everything he possibly can to get out of this, but he can't. Stomach first. Stomach and dick first into the thumbtacks. Absolutely nasty. That was not the bump of the match, though. That was not the spot of the match. These two guys go on top of the cage. And Ospreay, earlier in the match, Kyle Fletcher hit him with a screwdriver. Ospreay brings that same screwdriver and he hits Kyle Fletcher in the head with the screwdriver. He then throws it down to the canvas. Stands up on top of the cage. And this fucking cage, this cage in AEW is not the same cage in WWE. You watch a WWE steel cage match, And the cage does not look that high. You watch an AEW steel cage match, this cage has to be like 15, 20 feet in the air. So these guys are 15 to 20 feet in the air, about to hit the craziest Spanish fly I've ever seen. And Will Ospreay lands hip first onto the canvas and into the ring. Hip first. Unreal. Unreal spot. Fucking breathtaking. And then he gets hit with the Storm Zero, Hidden Blade, and ended off with how Kyle Fletcher turned on him in the first place with a Tiger Driver 91, and the match is over. Ospreay limps out of the steel cage, gets on out of there, and he might be hurt, man. He seriously might be hurt after that match, and I wouldn't be shocked about it at all. Kyle Fletcher, unbelievable talent. Unbelievable. And it was a hell of a match. An absolute all-timer. We're going to be talking about this cage match for years and years and years to come. And I don't know what's next for these guys, but what an incredible feud it was. And then we had the main event. And if they ended the show at the main event, I would have been totally okay with it. Cope comes out, and you got 12,000 fans at the Crypto.com arena singing his theme song, which sounded awesome. What was not awesome is the match. It was slow and boring. And after coming off that steel cage match, it was impossible to have a good match here. But we shall talk about the ending. They do stuff like rip up the ring canvas, concrete, all that stuff. Ref bump. The concerto, which Moxley hesitated on for some reason. Then the shenanigans began. And Wheeler Yuta came out, and he was conflicted what to do. Moxley on one knee, Cope on one knee. They both stand up, and Wheeler Yuta hits Cope. And he tells him to grab 2 chairs. He tells him to grab the briefcase. And that's when Jay White comes out. And he hits the ring. And he attacks Mox. And he attacks Wheeler Yuta. He hits a Blade Runner onto Wheeler Yuta. And he grabs the briefcase where he goes to hit Moxley. And he hits Cope instead. And him and Jay White, Wheeler Yuta and Jay White brawl. And that's the end of them. I'm very happy they didn't do the turn tonight. Very happy. They might do it on Wednesday, though. But then Moxley covers and Cope kicks out. Moxley then goes for a paradigm shift. Cope counters it and hits the spear. And he hits another spear. And he hits a third spear in which Cope's about to beat Moxley, and the referee gets pulled out from a man in the black hoodie, and it's Christian Cage. He's cashing in his contract. He signs the contract. He hits Cope over the head with the contract, and he goes in the ring. This match is now a triple threat match. And Christian Cage hits a spear for a very close near fall, and he hits the kill switch. 1, 2, Moxley scoops in. Bulldog chokes Christian. Christian is reaching for Jon Moxley. He's reaching for Cope. And when Christian's asleep and Bryce signals for the bell to be rung, all you hear in the crowd is, "Oh! Oh my God." Like, they were sad, man. This crowd was not happy about the finish to that match. I wasn't. I'm in the minority. Yes, the match was bad. But the match was set up to be bad because of the match before it. There's no way they were going to have a good match coming off of the Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher steel cage match. That match was going to be bad no matter what coming out of that. So yes, Moxley, he retains the title. People wanted to see a title change. It didn't happen, and it was the right move. And after the match, Moxley goes into the crowd. He's going back to where he came from. And Prince Nana standing right there with his robe on. And security, for some reason, comes to break it up. But then they pan the camera out, and there's Swerve on top of the railing, hits a swerve stomp onto Moxley and the security guards. And the crowd goes fucking crazy. Nana's chanting, "Whose house? Swerve's house. Whose house? Swerve's house." After the bad match, that was a great ending to the pay-per-view. And I said it a couple weeks ago that I believe an AEW original should beat Jon Moxley. Swerve Strickland is not an AEW original. But fuck, man. He is a once-in-a-lifetime talent. He is a generational talent. The fans are a second year in a row. Second year in a row. The fans are so behind him. He should win the title. He's not going to, but he should. And we can pivot from this. Darby Allin and Moxley doesn't have to be for the world title. We can pivot from this and do Hangman versus Swerve for the world title at All In. And Swerve beats Moxley at Dynasty. It can happen. It can happen. But we'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure that's going to be your main event of Dynasty. Swerve Strickland versus Moxley. That's going to be a fucking awesome match. I'm very excited to see that in person. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your AEW Revolution review. It is 1:30 in the morning. I got to get up at 6:30 for work. I'm going to go to work feeling like a zombie. But damn it, it was worth it. Awesome pay-per-view tonight. And as I said on the SmackDown vlog at the end, and as I said tonight, I will be at the next AEW pay-per-view. I'll be at Dynasty, Liacouras Center, April 6th. I'll be doing a vlog there too. That's going to be a great night. Great night of wrestling. And overall, this capped off a great weekend for professional wrestling. For me, with going to SmackDown on Friday and the movie which came out this weekend, which I'm not really a movie theater guy. I don't like going to movie theaters. I still haven't seen the Iron Claw movie yet, which I'm gonna watch sooner rather than later. But I will wait to watch it until it's available on like Peacock or Netflix. I don't like going to the movie theaters. It's so dirty in there. But it came out this weekend in theaters. And then of course this awesome pay-per-view tonight. I'll be back for Raw. We got a big episode of Raw tomorrow night. Madison Square Garden. CM Punk and Seth Rollins in a steel cage. Man, the bar is set between Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. I don't know how those guys are going to do it, but we'll see. I'm getting out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. Subscribe to the Big Fight Fuel channel. If you haven't already, be sure to go ahead and check out the SmackDown vlog from Philly. Hit the like button if you like what you heard from me. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok, Colin_Joseph. I'll see you guys tomorrow night for Raw. Have a good night. Stay safe. And as always, stay classy. And love professional wrestling. Peace.